India 1947 to 2000, a story of an incredible rise of 400 million people. Now, I was giving a lecture in a gathering, and it was about leadership models, and I was talking about charismatic leadership. That's something which is in much more nowadays. So I was speaking about it, and I was giving an example. The example was from the World War II period, and it was of Mr. Winston Churchill. You know the personality he possessed. You know, he was always immaculately dressed and a stick in his pocket, and when he used to walk, it was all confidence and nothing less. So this was a man, and he would never forget his stick anyway. And he was known for this. So this day, during the World War II period, not exactly World War II period, he went and met another personality which is known equally well, and I'm talking about Hitler, the Führer, the strong man. And he went to meet him, and what amazing thing happened was that he went and met him, and he went into the room, they had a closed door meeting for around 2 hours, something like that, and he came out, and Führer also came out, and he waved at him, and then Mr. Winston Churchill walked to his limousine, climbed in, and then went to the airport, and climbed out, and then he was about to climb the airplane, and he realized he's forgotten his stick. Now, this was an example which I gave, telling you what happens when an amazing and charismatic leader comes in front of you. So I gave this lecture, and people were happy, they were clapping, and I went down and sat on my couch, and I could see a man sitting on that other hand. He was a oldish professor. So he waved me high, and he was smiling and was laughing and saying, it was a wonderful speech. He came up to me, he said, can I speak to you in a minute? I said, yes, why not? So I said, what is it about, Professor? He said, Dr. Pande, you are splendid today. I said, thank you very much. He said, but you made a mistake. I said, is that so? He said, yes. And you made a mistake. It was a factual error. I said, what was that? He said, do you know, I'm a professor for the last 40 years. I've been writing international modern world history books, and I can tell you for granted, Winston Churchill never ever met Hitler in his lifetime. I said, what are you saying? Is that correct? He said, yes, it is correct. I said, but I read it somewhere. He said, where did you read it? I said, I read it in a book by who was the writer? He said, who was the writer? So I said, it was a book by Brian Acton and not Sotheby. He said, who? And what was the book? I said, WhatsApp and Facebook. And believe me, this is what is happening with us. This is how we are interpreting our history and geography and all sorts of important things in our lives. Now come back to something like 205 years ago. This gentleman, known as Lord Buddha, was walking down the street. And on the one side of the road was this man with his begging bowl in his hand. He was begging. That's what he used to do as a ascetic. And on the other side of the road was another beggar. Now, if you see this man, and you see that man, and you don't know anything about Buddha, what will you see? Beggars. Right? But for the person who knows who is Buddha and who is a beggar, the beggar has yet not started on his journey. He is still dreaming. He is still thinking about the riches and abundance and perhaps a beautiful queen one day. And Buddha, on the other hand, has had it all. He's been there and done that, and then relinquished it, left it behind, and said it's useless. This is the difference, ladies and gentlemen. If you cannot know a person without knowing his history from authentic sources, how do you think will you know a country and a nation of this proportion without knowing its history in the past? We talk about Usain Bolt, we talk about Steve Jobs, we talk about Bill Gates, we talk about Indra Nooyi, we talk about Barack Obama, we talk about all sorts of people. I'm inspired by them, no doubt, and I'm motivated by them. They are all wonderful people. They inspire me inside out. But my problem is that the greatest dream in the history of the world happened right at our backyards. Right at our backyards. It started in 1947. And he never cared to thought about it. Never, ever. Do you know in 1947 where did we come from? I'll give you some examples. 1950, if my statistics are right, 1950, during times when the British were subjugating us, they started subjugating us sometimes in 1764, Battle of Buxar, and it ended in 1947, 180 years or something like that. There were close to 33 famines which struck India. 33 famines. First one happened in 1764, and the last one in 1943. This is not important. What is important is the proportion of the things that happened. The last famine happened in 1943. And in that one famine, close to 36 lakh people lost their lives. What was the population of India at that point? 36 crores, 1950. What does it mean? One person out of every 100 person lost a life. This is what was done to us when we were subjugated for 180 years. This is what was done. Imagine the gathering here. How many people are here? 1 out of 100 died because of that one single famine. Famines. Illiteracy. 82% people in 1950 were illiterate. They were not able to read and write. 82 out of 100 people. Hunger. Hunger, ladies and gentlemen. Poverty. What is poverty? The definition I'm using is the people who are below poverty line are the people who are not able to get the food, buy the food which can nourish them for the next day. And 53% of Indians in 1950 were under poverty line. What does it mean? 53%? The total population is 36 crore. 50% comes out to 19 crores. The population of America at that point in time was 19 crores. We had 18 crore hungry stomachs at that point in time. Population of United Kingdom, 5 crores. France, 6 crores. Germany, 8 crores. And we had 18 crore hungry people here to feed. 1947-50. That's what we started with. That's the past I'm talking about. Now what we did after 1947, we started the first fight, the fight against hunger. Because that's what you do. You have to arrange the food first. And what a fight it was. What a fight. We started out working in terms of money, manpower, and all sorts of resources were pushed in. Again, if my facts are right, we had close to 30,000 tractors in India in 1950. And I'm not just throwing the figures. Go and read any authentic book. 30,000 tractors in India in 1950. They rose to close to 150,000, 5 times by 1975. I'm just giving you an impression of what was the resources being put in. We had close to 1 lakh tube wells in 1950, 5 lakh by 1975. We're all trying. Close to 2 lakh pumps, diesel pumps, which farmers use. 2 crore, 50 lakh by 1975. We were fighting, but times were bad. It was a journey we had to take for long. By the end of 1967, there came a time when our Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, had to pick up the phone and call the President of the United States of America, Lyndon Johnson. Sir, I want some food grain for my country. People are dying out here. What was the age? 1967? 20 years. We are still fighting, but we didn't give up. Then happened the Green Revolution, and then happened all the high-yielding varieties, seeds, and so on and so forth. And it was by 1980s that we made the first dent. By 1980s, we were for the first time in a position to feed our country fully in terms of food grains. And then it was another thing in 1985 that we were not only able to produce things which were sufficient for our country, we had a stock of around 30 million tons. 1985 food grains I'm talking about. That was the first victory we had. That was the first victory we had. And there might still be some naysayers out here, but let me tell you why. In the same period, the population grew by 2.1%, and the food grain production grew by 3%. That was not a mean task for a country with that past. But had this been the story, I would have not been here. This was only a part of it. Infrastructure, and that's where the beauty comes in. I'm again throwing some facts and statistics to you. There were close to 4 lakh kilometers of roads we travel day in and day out today. 4 lakh kilometers of road in 1950. Year 2000, 14 lakh kilometers. Now what does it mean? Subtract the two figures, divide by 365 into 50. That comes out 200 kilometers of roads being made each day. 200 kilometers of roads were being made each day for 50 long years. we were fighting the battle with the hunger and making roads 200 kilometers each day. Railroads, 53,000 kilometers, 1950. 63,000 by 2000. Half a kilometer of railroads being made each day for 50 years. Civil aviation, we had close to nothing in terms of civil aviation. Now you can see the things happening. And the most interesting thing came in terms of power. The installed capacity of the entire India in 1950 was 2,300 megawatts. And if I'm not wrong, then 10 years ago in Delhi, the maximum capacity that was being utilized in terms of installed capacity was 4,300 megawatts. But the interesting thing is this. When we got independence, then in 1953 years after that, we had close to 3,000 villages which were electrified. In 2000, were close to 5 lakh. 28 villages being electrified each day. Now imagine, we're fighting a war with hunger. We're making 200 kilometers of roads. We're making 0.5 kilometers of railroads. And we're taking electricity to 28 villages each day. But we didn't stop here. If this would have been the story, I would have not come here to talk about it. The magic was still to come. And that came in terms of education. 1945, I was discussing with somebody, the first IITs was built. 1945. And in the next 10 years, they had around 4 to 5 more IITs. Now, anybody in the education sector will realize this, that it's not easy to construct a national importance education center. Why? How to get the faculty? Today you have WhatsApp, you have phones, you have emails. You can write and ask them for their CVs. And just imagine how would they have done it 50 years ago, creating these institutions of national excellence. But they didn't stop there. That was not the dream I'm talking about. Because they were people, they were leaders, they were common men who were dreaming bigger. They were dreaming much bigger. They were talking and thinking and dreaming of capturing the nucleus on one hand and signing in the space on the other hand. And they did it. 1952, Department of Energy was established. Homi Jahangir Bhabha, you must have heard about it. 1954, we had the first nuclear power center in Trombay. Then, in the 1960s, we had the first rocket launching facility in Cuba, but we were not satisfied with the facility. So by 1962, we launched our first sounding rocket. Now, a country which is fighting with hunger, is constructing railroads and roads, is now launching rockets. The very next year, they launched the first completely indigenously built rocket in 1965, sounding rocket. And then in 1974, we had our first nuclear bomb explosion in Pande. We had tamed the neutron, but we were not stopping at it. 1975, we sent our Aryabhat to the space. What was the age of this country at that point of time? Hardly 20 years, 25 years, fighting the battle with hunger, making roads, making railroads, what and what not. And then we are capturing the nucleus, and then we are capturing the space. And all the while this was happening, what was happening to our neighbors? The first Indo-Pak War, 1947, it was not an easy job. We were fighting all these battles. At the same time, we were braving the enemy. 1947 Indo-Pak War, number 1. 1962 Indo-China War. 1967 Indo-Pak Second War. And then came 1971, the golden moment, where we fought a battle and created a country called Bangladesh. And in the meanwhile, we were doing amazing things. Like we were incorporating Goa, Daman and Diu into us. We were incorporating Hyderabad, Junagadh, and even Sikkim in 1971-72. So ladies and gentlemen, what I want to say here is, this is a beautiful country, and it has a profound and a very deep and a rich history. And somebody said that history makes men wise. It makes poets witty. It makes mathematicians subtle. It makes profound philosophies deep and morals grave. But the people who forget their history, or the people who do not remember their history, are the people who do not have a past, but more importantly, they are the people who will not have a future. So, I urge upon you, I request you, and I prod you not to forget your history. Keep track of your history from the original resources. Read your books, apply your own mind and brain and interpretations, develop your own understanding, and develop your own impression about the history. Because I'm sure that if you can do this job, then one day you will stand erect and look with love, affection, inspiration, and motivation, or I want to say, in respect and awe, in the eyes of your mothers and fathers, their mothers and their fathers, their grandmothers and their grandfathers, and bow and bend before them and say to them that this is the breed that I belong to. Thank you very much for